There are a few translations. The one you use is the KJV translation. Same meaning, just worded differently. Okay, I guess that's fair. Alright, so, like I said, Symphony of the Night has loads of speedrun tech to it that can let you cut down on a lot of things. There's so many ways for you to break into facets of the game in ways that you probably wouldn't expect otherwise. From floor clipping to just completely skipping boss fights. It gets very insane very quickly if you know how to do what you're doing. What's up, Fear Chimera? With the wave. What is that? Are those Mastodon sentries? They look like Mastodon sentries. Yeah, that's what they are. That's pretty cool. Never seen a speed run for that game, so you're excited. I mean, so I can show you some things, right? Some things actually don't work anymore, and that's an issue. That's a problem by itself. And other things only work in certain versions of the game. For some of those, I could literally like point you to a few people, like Dragon Blitz or a couple other speed runners. Dragon Blitz, Mecha Richter. Yeah, there are a few. um, and you could definitely get like quite a bit of information from them too. They are obviously super good at their craft. Um, yeah, there's a lot that you can do. Some of the clips are really weird. Some of them have to do with you getting a hold of a heart refresh and using it to like let you clip through the floor. It's super strange, super weird to time, but if you do it right, you can just skip rooms and go jump to other portions of the castle. It gets really nutty. I have seen some weirdness with that. Kind of like the ZFG with Zelda. The ZFG? Enlighten me. Curious about this ZFG. 50-minute Gwei hover to get the fire arrows as a child. You started explaining one thing and it led into another thing that I've never heard of. What is a Gwei hover? Like you might have to enlighten me on Zelda speedrun tech because now I'm hearing terms I haven't heard of. Let's see. ZFG is a speedrunner for Ocarina of Time. Has held the world record for 100% for the longest. Ah, okay. So it's a person. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So, alright. So I had remind you to send a video because the explanation for that is too long in text. Alright. Yeah. Definitely do that. I'm very curious. All the speedrunners you know came from Watch Summoning Salt's videos. Summoning Salt. I'll keep that in mind. So alright, I had things I wanted to talk about, right? When the subjects of Scott Pilgrim, like the beat 'em up, came in. So I had things to get off my chest. And I'm like, hold on, let me actually remember this because like when it got brought up, I usually have something to say. And it's just like, no, no, no. Let's get this out there. So Scott Pilgrim, right? The beat 'em up. Back when it came out, Scott Pilgrim was very, very good. It did a lot of things at, at its release. It did a lot of things that were really interesting at the time, and mainly was a nostalgic throwback to things like River City, Kunio-kun, and Double Dragon. Um, and for that, and for its like old school retro look, and the really even now still really nice soundtrack, right? For all of that, the game should 100% be lauded, right? But there are people that hold Scott Pilgrim to this crazy high regard, mainly because they have like nostalgia boners for, Scott Pilgrim, the property, without considering that the game is by now something that hasn't aged well. Let's see, Summoning Salt does documentaries on the history and current records of speedruns, great videos/content, and personally he has good choice in music in his videos. Okay, I can look into him, see what's going on. But yeah, Scott Pilgrim, like I said, like it's a product of its time, and things have definitely evolved past where Scott Pilgrim made it. I played it lots back then because it was very much like, you know, it it was at the time pretty cool. And I'm not saying it's not cool now because I know how it sounds. But what I am saying is there's certainly a lot of stuff that got released even back then that I liked more than Scott Pilgrim on a technical level, more so on a gameplay level, just in general, because it allowed more, it wasn't as limiting, and just a lot of things. Like Scott Pilgrim did have its issues, and it was in its own way limited in a lot of ways. So I really feel like at the end of the day, like it shouldn't be looked at as this be all end all, because so many beat 'em ups even around that same time frame did things better, right? If people are happy to have it back, that's 100% fine. I'm all for it, and you'll never hear me complain about that at all. Heck, I bought it. I bought it myself, so I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. But I mean, for me personally, give me River City Girls, give me Fighting Rage, give me Streets of Rage 4. I am good with any of those. That's where we are. That's where we are with that. Love Scott Pilgrim game music. Anamanaguchi is a good band. Yeah. Yeah, they are. Sent me a video. Don't know if it'll describe the whole trick in its entirety, but it's a good chunk. Your brain is fading, so you have to sleep now. That's all good. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate that. 100%. Always appreciate the company. So, very much Yeah, like if we were to get like a sequel to Scott Pilgrim that made improvements to its gameplay on a base level and made some definite improvements to certain things that were touted by many to be as problems, I think we would at that point actually have a game that is very strong, very much, in line to get the praise that it does. But as it is right now, like if you liked Scott Pilgrim mainly because like nostalgia for it was strong, like you had fun with it back in the day and stuff like that, cool, right? But don't let that blind you because there are better games. There definitely are better games. Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to get that off my chest because that got brought up earlier, and it's like they actually brought it up in a comparison like sense, like Scott Pilgrim or River City Girls, and I'm like, this isn't a question that you need to ask. Like you really actually don't need to ask me that. We know where I stand. Scott Pilgrim the game and IP is not to be me. Kinda cringe if you put some thought into it. The game though is fun, kinda grindy, and some of the levels range from super short to really long. The third Evil X level versus the Twins level. Mm-hmm. Like Scott Pilgrim, like as an IP, like if we're talking about the story and stuff, like there are issues, right? I mentioned before, Scott's a jerk. Scott's a jerk, but that's also the point of the story. That's also the point of the story. Like there's supposed to be a level at least of redemption to Scott and what he does, but some pieces of the media don't exactly portray that well. Right, the baseline for what beat 'em ups should be in general is certainly higher. It was higher back then. Scott Pilgrim back then was meant to be more of a nostalgia style trip, and for what it was fun and can still be fun if you have friends, right? Just in general, it's like, eh, I can't. I definitely can't now. Not with the way the game is made. People forget that Scott's a jerk. It flies over people, and some people go, cool gaming ban, early zero zeros references. Right, right. They get caught up in the nostalgia, and things kind of tumble from there. So that's a thing. Like I said, I wanted to like roll that out because that the way that got brought up earlier, it was like, nah, I have thoughts. Let me express these thoughts. Let's get those out there. Um, Another topic that's throwing me all the way off, and it's been throwing me off all day. Can we talk about WWE for a minute? I'm super curious. Like, what in the world is going on with WWE right now? What on earth? Yeah, so many people are being let go. I'm like, what happened? These people that you let go, they were, oh my god, you were literally just using them. Like literal nights ago, you had some people in championship matches. You had them lined up for title shots or in storylines, and now they're gone, and it means nothing. Braun Strowman was someone who, if you really looked at what Strowman was and what he did, he was someone where it was like he should have just been a company man. Like, if someone would have told me yesterday, Braun Strowman's going to be released tomorrow, they're going to fire him, I would have looked at them like they were insane. I would have looked at them like they were 100% insane, because I would not have been able to believe that at all. The reason is they want to save money for the upcoming contract releases. Braun was earning $1 million a year. That's what they say. It's budget cuts. But then you have to consider that they're also reporting their most profitable year, like, in the history of the company. So they're saying it's budget cuts on one end, but on the other, they're saying this year's our most profitable in the entirety of the company's history. It gets really muddy, really murky. And then on top of that, you have to consider the deals with Saudi Arabia, the deals with Peacock as well, things like that. So it's like, why would you need to make these cuts, right? We have come to terms with the WWE Universe. We wish them the best in their future endeavors. They say that every day. And they wish they could mean it. They wish they could control the crowd that way, but they can't, and it burns them up. It burns Vince up especially. So there's that. It's super ironic for Braun. He was a company man and he got the boot. It's super ironic both for that reason and because literally a year ago Braun was taking shots at indie people, basically saying at least he's not like he's not somebody that was on the indies that is wrestling somewhere now that is, quote, formerly known as. That's the gist of his statement. Basically saying that people on the indies simply can't cut it in the big leagues. And that statement, like, it hit a lot of people. It definitely hit them the wrong way. So for him to say that and then a year later get, the boot out the door, that is certainly irony. Let's see. This year was profitable for when they got the signing bonuses. If you listen to Dave Meltzer, they're not doing well on TV, but they haven't been doing well on TV for a while, right? That didn't just start now. That's a consistent thing. There are also talks behind the scenes about a working deal between WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. About that deal, I would not expect that to go anywhere anytime soon. Just by the nature of how these sorts of things work. The ratings for SmackDown for Fox. Fox is not happy. $5 million for that. Fox is going to have some words. New Japan Pro Wrestling does not like WWE, which is why it's just talks right now, and these talks aren't going to do anything but continue. All they can do is progress these talks, these quote-unquote talks, and see where they can take them at the moment, which is why, like, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. It's like, everybody needs to calm down. We're not about to see Kazuchika Okada going against, like, Adam Cole or Randy Orton or Roman Reigns, or not. We're not gonna see that yet. Would I discount it for a far future? No, because I mean, anything can happen in the wrestling business. Forget just WWE. The wrestling business is very much a fluid thing when you really look at it. Nothing's set in stone. It's just a matter of time for a lot of things, and that's something that should always be remembered, because you never know, like, where things are gonna go, who's going to get put on the chopping block. We saw that today. Again, I'm pretty sure a number of people looked at Braun and they were like, nah, he's got a job, he's fine. And then today happened, and it's like, oof. Let's see. Yeah, remember Triple H wanted to make an NXT Japan. The Japanese wrestling is very territorial. Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah. And coming from a company that has an owner that made it his business to, start absorbing and dissolving various territories, I think that would be all the reason in the world for them to feel a bit iffy about the concept of, like, you know, working alongside them. We'd have to see. Like I said, all we can do is wait and see what happens. Because things can go anywhere. It's just the time necessary to see where things go and how. It's very important. I needed time today to process the releases that happened because it really took me by surprise. Because I'm like, look, I heard that, and I'm like, if I were someone working in that company that was trying to back one of these stars and work with them for stories and all this other stuff, and this happened this fast, right when we were getting the ball rolling on some of them, like with Alistair Black, like heads would have had to roll. Heads would have had to roll. Somebody would have had to go off of a cliff like Mishima style. That would have had to be what happened. Also, the Peacock deal did not increase pay-per-view buys, which is not that good for WWE right now. IMO think WWE will be going short to survive because who is going to do long-term business with a company that doesn't have an innovative slash interesting product? Like, that's a weird thing to suss out too, because right now, it from the way things are like looking at the moment, it's almost as if, right? Like, think about it for a second. It's almost as if the people that are in charge of making the shows are no longer the same people making the brunt of the financial decisions. Because, like, Braun getting a mill in general for, like, his contract, right? That's pretty huge. I don't care, like, where you work or what. Like, that's massive. That's a massive deal. And that's a lot to consider. I can imagine if someone else were to like wind up taking the reins of dealing with their monetary matters, they would probably look at some of these wrestlers that they've hired and the amounts that these guys and girls are getting, and they're probably like, "What? Why are you giving them this much if you're not actually doing anything with them?" Like, no, let's consolidate this. Let this go. They don't have any competition, so they don't really have a reason to go out of their way to change what they do on the front. They have too many on the roster, too. See, again, most of what you're saying comes from conjecture and a lot of Dave Meltzer and his crew's theories, which I am are very sound. The current book for WWE is Bruce Pritchard, and he's a yes man. Bruce Pritchard. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Brother Love. Yeah, that guy. I remember Brother Love. The guy who introduced The Undertaker, weirdly enough. Very, very weird. Like, remember, Bruce is partly responsible for the fall of TNA. Remember when WCW beat WWF for 86 weeks straight? Yes, WWE won't let us forget. WWE won't let us forget that. So making him booker for 2 shows is not a good idea. No, it's not. It's 100% not a good idea. It's it's sketchy, and it's like I said, there's a lot of stuff to suss out. There's a lot of stuff to figure out. Like, Jesus Christ. What are they doing? I need to stop because I'm gonna get focused on that again, and things are going to go flying in like all kinds of different directions because I'm going to be overly focused on that again. The last time that happened, I was definitely stuck trying to figure out like why, basically, and it messed me up. It messed me up all day. By the way, it's not like they're making any new signings, right? Yeah. Eesh. That is what it is. Anyway, uh, so firstly, I appreciate everybody who tuned in and like, you know, who's been watching and hanging out here. I 100% like appreciate it a ton. Thank you all for that. Secondly, I have a dilemma. I have a dilemma. The dilemma is I'm not exactly tired. Now that I finished this stream, I'm like, what do I do? um, there's a tiny part of me. Let's see, think they're predicting the bad times and getting ready by tightening their belts. Yeah, they could be. It's very possible. It's very possible. We'll see what happens. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, the I think that because I'm not necessarily tired, I could do a little bit of like just a tiny bit of like late night Virtual Fighter stuff. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I could do a few ranked matches or something before I duck out and like head to bed. Since I'm again, I'm not tired. I kind of just feel like still going. So like yeah, it may not be a bad idea. Just do a few ranked matches. I would have to change my stream info. So let me do that. Click, click. Go to the dashboard. That. NWO Wolf.